It's been a soggy start to your week for many in the East, but big changes are coming to the pattern, bringing back the threat of severe weather, including tornadoes. I'll show you when the threat will emerge and who will be most impacted. In the meantime, rain is falling, snow is falling, hail is falling, and even spaceships are falling. From terrestrial weather to interstellar weather, we're tracking all of it because this is Cold Rain's Weather World, where we've got all the weather, and it starts right now. Hello friends, and welcome into another exciting edition of Cold Rain's Weather World, the fastest growing new weather show on the internet, where we've got all the weather, including solar filament eruptions like this one right here, which fortunately is directed away from Earth and will not cause us any problems at all. But yes, we've got terrestrial weather, we've got interstellar weather, we've got all the weather, including today's weather, a look at your upcoming forecast for the week, the long-range outlook, and highlighting any marquee events that are set to take place over the next few days, including the severe weather outbreak that is possibly going to occur later this week. We're going to take a look at all of that, but we always start by testing your weather IQ. And today's weather IQ question is brought to you by Clothes. Clothes. Tired of overspending for clothes? Then head on over to Clothes, the only retail discount store where you always spend more than you save. Our honest, straightforward pricing is clearly indicated on our random, partially operational electronic screens, which are sure to leave you bumfuzzled. Utilizing this groundbreaking technology also allows us to easily double the price of all merchandise during our frequent 50% off sales. You'll also enjoy our year-round scratch-off program that will entitle you to special discounts, but only when items are above actual retail price. Also, with all purchases comes a generous amount of Clothes cash, which you can be sure to use only during times when you are out of town, sick, or otherwise unable to make it to one of our stores. But don't worry, just take a look at your receipt. You'll feel much better knowing that your $300 purchase actually saved you $25,000. So come on down to Clothes, the only place where you spend more than you spend. Thank you, Clothes. Sounds like a little trickeration going on there, but we'll take what we can get. I don't know where we get these sponsors from, but anyway, we'll take what we can get here at Cold Rain's Weather World. But moving on, let's take a look at our weather IQ question. Which country experiences the most earthquakes annually? The United States, Chile, Indonesia, or Japan? So, if you know the answer, type it in the comments section. If you don't know it, just wait till the end of the show and you will know it. Then you can go and share it with all your friends and tell them to come to Cold Rain's Weather World, where we have fun, learn about the weather, and make you smarter along the way. All right, so when I first launched this channel, I promised I wasn't going to make 30-minute videos, and I seem to make a 30-minute video every day. So we're going to try to cut this one down about in half. We're going to use one of our Clothes Cash discount scratch-off cards and see if we can get a 50% discount on the time it takes to do this weather today. So we're going to try for 15 or so minutes, and we're going to start with our vapor loop here. This is in the mid-levels of the atmosphere, and look at this. You can see this low pressure that we've been dealing with over the east for some time now is finally moving out up into the Tennessee Valley. It will eventually open up into an open wave, move through the Ohio Valley, and get out of our hair. In the meantime, look at this dry air circulating around this. It's pulling in, it's a broad circulation here. You can see the dry air by these yellow colors. Moist air is around the center of circulation, or close to the broad center, I should say, and then the deep moisture plume is coming in off the Atlantic and providing plenty of heavy rains to eastern North Carolina all the way up into Pennsylvania. That's where we'll see the heavier rain today. Closer to the circulation under this cloud canopy that's here, we'll see the atmosphere heat up later this afternoon, and little spokes of energy riding around this system will activate that instability and create general showers and some thunderstorms, maybe a couple of strong storms here in the lower Tennessee Valley, upper southeast, and then even in eastern North Carolina, we could see a couple of strong storms, potentially some severe gusts or a tornado or two. We saw a tornado here in Edgecombe County yesterday that did some damage, actually. So this kind of a wind environment could lead to a spin up or two. Also have a severe threat up here in the Montana area too. We've got a trough working into the Pacific Northwest. That is going to set the stage for severe weather threat come later this week over in the upper plains and Midwest. Another moisture plume coming in out of the southwest into the by way of the subtropical jet stream. And so that's what's going on upstairs. Looking at how that's translating down at the surface, big plume of rain here from anywhere from eastern North Carolina, New Bern, all the way up into DC, Richmond, up to Scranton, Allentown, Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. We're seeing tons and tons of rain falling and some flash flood watches here as well. Otherwise, general shower and thunderstorm activity will occur over much of this area today in the Ohio Valley. We've got rain and snow out in the west with some rain near Seattle, rain in Washington, snow up in the higher elevations in the Bitterroots and places like that where you guys have seen plenty of snow already and could see another foot or two of snow out there. So that's what's going on with the radar imagery. Looking at our hazards map, got some fog here in Missouri and Arkansas. That's going to burn off as the morning wears on. Flood watches up along the eastern sections of North Carolina. Those will probably be dropped later today. Virginia, Pennsylvania, you're seeing flood watches as well for heavy rain. And then we've got red flag warnings up in the eastern Dakotas, much of Minnesota, where winds could gust 40 to 50 with very low dew points and warm temperatures, setting the stage for adverse fire conditions. So do not burn anything up there. Heat advisories down in Texas, where we could see heat indexes from 105 to 110. Be very careful. Air quality alerts out here too. So drink plenty of water, take breaks if you're outside. And of course, if you're traveling down into the Four Corners region, it's going to be windy with red flag warnings up here in New Mexico and Arizona too. So don't burn anything out here. That is what we've got going on. Of course, there's some snow in the upper peaks above 7,000 feet or so out here with winter storm warnings or so. Winter weather advisories are in effect up here in Idaho and Wyoming and the higher elevations of southern Montana. Looking at the surface map, so we've got the low pressure that we talked about before that's sitting in the western sections of the Tennessee Valley that's going to open up, move out for the next couple of days. Heaviest rain threat where there's a slight risk of excessive rainfall up here from central Pennsylvania to eastern North Carolina. So watch out if you're traveling around up there. Just take it slow and watch out, turn your headlights on so people can see what you're doing and don't drive erratically, of course. General showers and thunderstorms possible over much of the eastern portion of the country. And then in the northwest, we've got showers, and then in higher elevations, we could see some snowfall out there as well. Looking at the severe weather threat for this afternoon, not a ton of organized severe weather. We saw a tornado in Edgecombe County yesterday. So with this type of wind environment and a little bit of instability that we're going to see out here, we could see a little bit of organization, a couple of spin ups or two, maybe some wind gusts here and there, but a marginal risk of severe weather for Virginia, North Carolina. Also in the lower Tennessee Valley, upper south, here mid-south, we've got a marginal risk where we could see, again, a severe gust or two out here in the western Dakotas. Again, not high base supercell thunderstorms could form out here to produce potentially a strong wind gust or two. Tornado threats relatively low, although not out of the question. Same with wind, and not a lot in the way of hail production either, though we could see a couple of hailstones fall. So not a big severe weather threat, but keep your eye to the sky this afternoon. If you get any alerts, take those seriously. Of course, tropical tidbits. We're going to look at our tropical tidbits. HRRR. Let's see here. Let's do this one. This is fun. This is HRRRRRRR, and it shows what's going to happen through the afternoon. This is this morning. Put this on into motion. We see a little circulation out here with this trough coming in, and of course, showers and snow in the higher elevations out west. So you can see those showers starting to break out here over the Ohio Valley, and then this big plume of moisture, more steady rain as we get into the eastern sections of the mid-Atlantic and then up into Pennsylvania, of course. And that will just continue to persist over the course of the evening. As we get into overnight hours, a lot of the shower activity will die out, of course. But this system out here is becoming more organized, and so we'll continue to see an organized push of precipitation in the Pacific Northwest. And so looking at our temperatures as we go through the next day or so, we'll look at today's highs and tonight's lows. We'll get this centered for us. Big warm heat wave continues in the plains. We've seen hundreds up here in the northern plains in North Dakota, but we're going to see a little bit of a backing off of that. This trough is coming into the west, so it's going to cool us down out there. Big upper low in the east is going to keep us a little cooler in the east, of course, and then the big heat is down in South Texas today, but 90s, 80s, and 90s up and down the central plains, and of course in Florida as well. Looking at the temperatures for tonight, course, it's going to be colder out in the Rocky Mountains, but chilly in the Pacific or the western third of the nation, and then 50s and 60s pretty much dominating everybody else until you get down to the southern border, Gulf Coast. We're going to see temperatures muggy in the 70s, 40s up here in the northern New England area. And our spotlight, weather spotlight for the day, I saw this, I thought it would be fun to highlight it. Winter storm warning in effect, 7,000 feet up in southern Montana, where we could see snow every day for the next 5 or 6 days. 100% chance of snow tomorrow, heavy snow tonight, and looking at 1 to 2 feet. I'm not exactly sure where this is. I don't think it's near a town, but it says 8 miles southeast of Immigrant, Montana. So that's up in the mountains, folks. Treacherous driving around up there, so be careful if you're doing so. That is your Tuesday forecast. So just a quick update on our interstellar weather. The satellite that we were tracking last week, that Russian satellite that had been in orbit for 53 years, finally fell to the Earth. It did not hit on anybody as far as we know. They actually lost track of it as it entered the atmosphere and fell through the lower portion of the atmosphere, but it looks like it landed somewhere in the Indian Ocean. In the meantime, there are only 150 million other objects surrounding Earth up here orbiting the planet, and any one of these could fall at any time. Most of these are very, very small and would burn up in the atmosphere. 35,000 or so are large enough to be tracked, and they are tracking those, so we will get alerts when that happens. But I thought this was an interesting graph of what's going on up there in outer space above our heads that we never think about. So now you have something new to think about. All right, so we're rounding second, headed for third. The ball is rumbling around the outfield. I guess the outfielder has fallen down or something, and while he's rolling around on the ground, we're going to go ahead and take a look here at our 500 millibar, 18,000 feet up wind map to see what's going on upstairs, to get an idea of what's going to happen where we live down at the surface. And I want to issue a correction on something that I said yesterday. Yesterday, I referred to these lines that you see here kind of fanning out. I refer to these as isobars. They are not isobars. Words came out of my mouth faster than my brain was able to process, apparently. These are contour lines, height lines, and so we're not looking at isobars or lines of equal pressure on this map. That would be on a standard surface map. So sorry about that. That sort of came out faster than I had intended to, and I didn't realize that I had said that. So I want to make sure that I'm telling you the right information. You can always be sure that I will watch these back, and if I see anything, I will correct it. Anyway, moving ahead, this is what is setting the stage for our severe weather outbreak in these areas as we go on through the end of the week. All right, so watch this. This is a trough that's working into the west on Wednesday morning. As we move this on through the day, you can see how this kind of comes in. It takes on this starts to take on this sort of negative tilt. These lines sort of fan out. So we're going to start to see broad lift up here where these lines are fanning out. We're even going to see this thing close off up here. And so this is going to be important to watch, and it's going to be the driver of our severe weather. Winds out of the south are going to bring in, and southwest are going to bring in moisture out of the Gulf. It's going to set the stage for a warm sector. And as we go on into Thursday afternoon, look at these winds really increasing up here at 18,000 feet. And that is providing wind shear, providing lift, and is going to help organize some of this severe weather. And so the exact mode, timing, and locations are still TBD, so we're not going to get too terribly specific today, but just know if you live anywhere from the eastern Dakotas down in here through eastern Kansas and Oklahoma into maybe Arkansas, Tennessee, into the Ohio Valley areas, Great Lakes areas, be on alert as we get to tomorrow, Thursday and Friday for the opportunity for severe weather. And we're talking all hazards. Hail, wind, tornadoes are possible too. Some supercells, some organized segments. We're going to see all the above as we go through the week. You can see this thing take on this negative tilt. There is your finally starting to close off here as we get on into Thursday evening. Friday, we're seeing plenty of wind energy over the Ohio Valley, work in there in the Mid-South. And we're going to see Friday afternoon, just a maintenance of that shower and thunderstorm activity overnight Thursday into Friday, Friday morning, and Friday evening. So this is what happens. We got this big low up here where we had this big ridge before bringing all this heat. Now we've got a big low bringing severe weather and cooler temperatures, and our ridging is over the Gulf. And so we'll start to see warmer temperatures down here and cooler temperatures up into the north. Cape, thunderstorm fuel, you can see as we get on into Wednesday afternoon, it starts to build over the plain. So we're looking at severe weather threat up here in the Dakotas. A lot of this down here, look at this. big instability, but this part of the atmosphere is going to have a big cap on it, a big warm layer up here. So air's going to try to rise. It's going to hit that warm layer and realize, oh, I'm no longer warmer than my surrounding environment. I can't warm because the big warmer layer is warmer than me, and it's going to go back down. So that's what's going to happen here. So watch out. Above this, though, we'll have more of an uncapped area of the atmosphere, more forcing up there, so we could see thunderstorms in a severe mode in the eastern Dakotas on a Wednesday. And as we get on into Thursday, we'll see a return of that cape, and we'll start to see a severe weather threat over the lakes with plenty of instability there, and get on into Friday, and we still see plenty of instability. It's that time of year with moist air mass, warm air mass, instability. We get these cold core systems working in aloft, and we start to see that instability rise and produce showers and thunderstorms. Here's our severe weather threat: Dakotas into Nebraska with a marginal risk around that. Still seeing the influence of some turning in the atmosphere associated with that upper low out here in the eastern coastal plain areas of South Carolina up to Virginia and the Delmarva areas we get into the day tomorrow. Tornado threat is fairly low, not non-existent though, so potential up here in the northern plains. Wind is the greater threat, and hail also is a possibility. The threat shifts east as we get into Thursday, putting the Great Lakes from Wisconsin and Michigan down into Indiana and Ohio under the gun with a large area of marginal risk around that. We could see this adjust a little bit as we go through time. And then, of course, Friday, day 4, all we have is a probability, but that looks to be centered over the western Tennessee Valley and mid-Mississippi Valley as well. So that is your severe weather outlook. Looking at the upper air pattern, you can kind of see what's driving this. Here's our ridge moving out. This is a Wednesday morning, big trough associated with that upper low. That's going to be pulling out. Here's our trough coming into the west, and you can see that western trough turns into a closed low by the time we get into Friday morning. And of course, out ahead of this is unstable air and lift and thunderstorm activity. And as we go on through, we see that trough eventually work on into the northeast. Another trough swings through as we get into next week. And our ridging is now kind of over the Gulf, and we've got troughing over the north. So anywhere in this area, essentially the northern half of the country is going to see the opportunity for showers, thunderstorms, severe weather, and cooler than normal temperatures. The warmth is going to be confined down to the Gulf, and there's going to be a little more capping down here, so probably not going to see as much in the way of shower and thunderstorm activity. We may get into this situation where we start to see these little MCS, organized areas of convection, kind of traverse north from the northwest through the southeast as we get later into the period. We'll watch that. Taking a look at the high temperatures as we go through the rest of your week. Wednesday, similar to today, high temperatures warm in the plains, 90s, down into South Texas. We get into the hundreds, 109, 110, 111. Places like, Corpus Christi and places like that. It's going to be warm, warm, warm. Cool out west with that trough. A little chillier up into the north, but still average to, maybe even above average in spots. But that upper low is going to keep things a little cooler there. We get into Thursday, the warmth shifts east with southerly flow out ahead of this trough in the west. Desert Southwest warming up, everybody in the 80s and 90s, except for hundreds in Texas where it's still hot, 70s up in the northeast. Friday, looking much like Thursday, with cooler across the northwest, warmer across the south with temperatures in the 80s and 90s. Saturday, we get on into Saturday, we start to really cool off here around the Great Lakes. And then, of course, Sunday, much the same look with the warm being pinched off in the southeastern quadrant of the country where it's still warm there, and then cool across the north and also the Intermountain West as well. Looking at how everything's kind of going to play out as we go through the week. I'm way out here ahead of myself, so let's run it back. Shower and thunderstorm activity picks up through the afternoon Wednesday in the east. Intermountain West, we're seeing in the Rocky Mountains, we're seeing showers and thunderstorms with that trough. Then here it comes on Thursday. We're seeing Thursday afternoon. Look at this. We start to see that big low pressure develop. It's going to get down into the 980s. Lots of activity around that Thursday afternoon. We're going to see shower and thunderstorms break out along the cold front that's out ahead of it. Model's not showing a lot of that activity here, so we're going to see exactly how widespread it is, but still the potential's there for quite a bit of active weather as we get into Thursday and also into Friday night into Saturday as well. So we're going to see this active period pick back up. We go on through time, looking into your weekend, rain coming into the west. rain in the northeast, and also a cluster of thunderstorms potentially over the deep south Saturday into Sunday. And there's a couple of those little northwest flow events that I'm talking about. So we'll see how all this plays out, but we're going to be back into an active period again for much of the country, looking at the probability for above and below normal temperatures. Much of the country above normal in terms of the precipitation department, with a signal for below normal over Florida and also the West Coast. Hawaii and Alaska both above normal. Below normal temperatures over the northern tier. This is again 6 to 10 days. So this is next week beyond the weekend, looking at troughing across the north, active pattern, and below normal temperatures, above normal in the southwest and the south and southeast. And volcanic activity, not much going on here. Same 4 areas we've been watching. Earthquakes, no new earthquakes today, except for there was one in Texas, I think overnight, very, very low impact. It was like 2.3 or something. Nobody really felt that. Coronal hole turning in toward Earth. We've got active area of sunspots turning in. They haven't become visible yet, but they're on the limb. They're turning towards. Another area is turning away. This coronal hole is going to come into us and bring in potentially some space weather as we get on in to the next week or so, with solar wind potentially activating a magnetic field. And then looking at, we already saw that, so looking at the aurora, look at that. Nothing really all that much. Here's a likelihood of aurora. It's very low, and even if it happened, you wouldn't be able to see it if you're in the United States. So not much going on there, which leads us to our weather IQ question. We're going to see how we did on time today. I suspect I still ran long, but that's okay. We had a good time. Which country experiences the most earthquakes annually? The US, Chile, Indonesia, or Japan? And the answer is Japan. They experience 1,500 earthquakes per year. That's quite a lot of earthquakes. Most of those are not either felt or don't do any damage. Japan is very, very well situated in terms of their infrastructure to handle earthquakes. Now, of course, large earthquakes are going to be a problem for anybody, but they do a good job with what they have to deal with. So that is the weather IQ question. Now you know about earthquakes. Now you know about space junk and the rest of the weather. And of course, as always, this is Cold Rain reminding you that if other stations run 24/7, we got you covered 48/14 right here at Cold Rain's Weather World. That's it, folks. Hope you have a blessed day. Take care. We'll see you back tomorrow.